To defeat an enemy, you must know them. Not just their battle tactics, but their history, philosophy, art. Welcome to the Chiss Ascendancy podcast.
All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to
The Chiss Ascendancy.
episode 60, the big 6-0.
We made it.
Every week we make it one more time. All right, so today we're talking about the Genndy Tartakovsky Clone Wars, also known as the 2D Clone Wars, also known as the Anime Clone Wars, also known as the Cartoon Network Clone Wars, also known as the 03 Clone Wars. I call them all these things.
The player formerly known as Mouse Cop.
Yeah. So a little bit of newsy news before we get in there.
Tech Theratrix.
Yeah, exactly. So the first thing, let's just get this off our chest because it sucks. But Benedict Cumberbatch is out as Thrawn.
Yeah.
Unless he's pulling our leg, but I don't think he is.
I'm upset about the news. I'm more upset about his reasoning.
Yeah,
Like, he didn't know who Thrawn was when
Right.
it got brought up in an interview, right?
Right.
So he was in an interview and somebody's like, hey, so there's this character that's coming up in Star Wars. His name's Thrawn, and a lot of the people that really like the character think that you would be the best actor to portray him.
Right.
You know? And
So he basically is like, okay, so what's his bit? Is he this guy? Is this guy? And he asked some kind of question, and he said, no, he's this really smart guy. Come on. Like, they're kind of like, it's one of those things where it's like, who he is, So like, he's blue. And he's like, oh, I'm not doing that.
yeah.
I won't be painted blue.
Yeah.
Which is so dumb. What a dumb reason.
Yeah.
He said he's got kids now, and it's a big deal. But I'm okay.
If I had kids, that would be like the biggest motivation to take a role in Star Wars, because who kids don't freaking love Star Wars?
Right.
See
Well,
your
my
dad
thing is
as like one of the greatest Star Wars characters of all time.
yeah.
I mean, not my dad, because my dad would butcher it, but
Right. Well, the hard thing about him being Thrawn is like, dude, you're an actor, so what's the difference for you? I don't know where he lives full time, but let's say he lives in Los Angeles and he's filming
England.
Well, maybe, but like that's the thing as well. Like, okay, what's the difference? Okay, let's say he lives in England. This is even a better
Right.
point. If he lives in England,
Well, I guess that's the
south
thing
of London,
in Birmingham.
smoking's all the rage in London.
is it you've wrong me?
How could you tell I was English?
Oh, mate, how do you know I was English?
So if he lives, let's say he lives in London or somewhere thereabouts, because that's the only place in England that exists. And let's say that it's a Doctor Strange or it's a anything,
Yeah.
I don't understand how you flying to the U.S. of A. and your day is taken up from 9 to 5
Yeah,
with makeup and acting
You're
regardless.
shooting anyway. You
Yeah,
know what
I don't
mean?
understand the difference.
But anyway, we'll not get too hung up on it. I was just upset because he didn't even give himself time to fall in love with the character, and
Right.
I think that if he had done that, he wouldn't have said no so readily.
Right.
But just to not even allow himself to get to that point, it seems like such a crazy hang up for me.
Yeah. But I would say on the good news side of things, it seems that the rumor mill is churning out the idea that a little bit of news on the Lando series that Donald Glover is on board to reprise his role as young Lando.
I watched Community through since we watched Solo the other day.
Yeah.
Or was that with you?
No.
So I watched Solo by myself the other day, and I watched it differently because I had seen him in Community, so I interpreted everything he did differently. Just because it was weird to see him in a serious context after seeing him as the character that he plays in Community.
Yeah, I also have never seen Community.
But he's dearer to my heart now.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I think he's a great music artist, so I really liked him going into Solo for that reason. So if I watch Community now, I'll be double endeared.
Yeah.
But I'm excited for that. Of course, my vision is hopefully it's Billy D telling some youngster about, I used to be Lando, and then tell stories about Donald Glover.
I hope that the series ends like that episode of The Office where it was threat level midnight, and it was Michael Scarn at the end of the movie, and he was sitting at the fireplace, and he's like, "Bet you're wondering how I know so much about Michael Scarn. Well, I am Michael Scarn."
Yeah.
And it's Stanley's voice.
Yeah, that would be cool.
I'd like that.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be cheesy, but I
would be totally into. We just get a little Billy D cameo because I know he's older, and I know that he's not really doing a whole lot of acting nowadays.
Do you think other planetary cultures have fireplaces?
I assume. I mean, the only culture that we know is mankind because that's reality, and so talking around the fire is kind of a all mankind sort of thing. You've seen Ice Age; it goes back forever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, fire in itself, but
yeah.
What does it do on
so
other
that's
planets?
good news. And then another thing that's kind of cryptic is, okay, so we had the cat that was claiming to be Ezra, and he was like, I'm not doing anything. But now the character, I can't remember his name, the actor that plays Aladdin from the new Aladdin with...
I heard he quoted Ezra Bridger line on his Instagram.
Uh-huh. And so it kind of makes sense that it's heating up that that Thrawn is kind of
around the fireplace.
Exactly. It's kind of being thrown around in interviews about Thrawn recently, and now this guy, we've heard he's maybe going to be Ezra, and now he's quoting Ezra. And then there was another thing that I had sent you and Adam a while back where I was like, hey, this interview's okay, but scrub through to like 30 seconds left. And I can't remember what the podcast was, but okay, I remember that Star Wars Explained was part of the group that was doing like a Zoom podcast, whatever. And I don't really know much about the guy. His name's Alex. But he's very knowledgeable about Star Wars. And I would say that of all the big groups, like for instance, Star Wars Theory doesn't really have a great relationship with Disney because he doesn't care for some of the newer stuff. Like he loves Mandalorian. He loves...
Who doesn't?
He liked The Force Awakens. He hated The Last Jedi. And he liked Rise of Skywalker for what it did to try to redeem the trilogy. His words, not mine, of course, so whatever, don't hate me. But the thing is, because he also makes his own Vader fan films or whatever and got a lot of recognition from it, Disney kind of doesn't like that guy. At least that's what I've heard or kind of gotten from it. But on the flip side, Alex...
The only Darth Vader fan films I care to watch are Chad Vader.
Your baby is ugly. So
classic.
He's not really in good standing with them as far as I know, but the other guy, Alex from Star Wars Explained, is in good standing. He's the kind of guy that Star Wars Books sends him Star Wars books a month ahead of time to read so that they can put out a review the day the book actually drops.
That's the dream life right there.
I'm trying. I've sent emails and emails and emails, and honestly, the hardest people to get a hold of are the books people. I've talked to people that I know that get free stuff from Hasbro as far as figures go. I've talked to the audiobook side of things. Like obviously Mark Thompson does our intro and stuff like that. That's also been pretty smooth. But talking to someone that works with actual Star Wars publishing is a nightmare. So if you're listening to this, please reply to my emails. I've sent the same email like 4 times. But anyways, so this, long story short, this guy kind of has a little bit of an inside scoop. He goes to red carpets and stuff like that, right? So the other cast on the podcast, I don't know. But one of the guys who is getting ready to close down the show goes, and don't forget to watch that. Make sure you renew your Disney Plus subscription. They're going up $1 a month, but it's totally going to be worth it when that Thrawn Ezra show drops in the fall. See you guys later.
Yeah.
And is laughing, and guy,
everybody that was on it was like, what?
Yeah.
Well, he just kind of said it in passing.
He said it in passing, kind of as a joke, like put it out there. But the thing was, to me, I guess I was watching Alex because he's the one that I know the most, and he was like almost like blushing, like he knew something. And it was kind of like, it's kind of like whenever someone's like, oh, and by the way, Samuel pooped his pants in the last classroom, and you're like, bro. You know what I mean? Kind of like, hey, that was our secret. I think that when he said
it was our secret.
I think that when the first guy said that, if Alex did know anything, he's not very good at poker because he was like,
Or he's great at poker, and he just wanted you to think that.
Yeah. So who knows? So that's some cool news.
Fantastic
so we'll
sabacc
see.
player.
Yeah, we'll see. So it's going to be interesting. And then some other news that was kind of cool had been hinted at, but this goes into the toy side of things for those who are Star Wars collectors out there. But they announced we're really fighting for the vintage collection to get this because that's obviously the scale I prefer. But the Black Series are getting comic book legends. So the vintage collection really needs to catch up. Not that we would buy them, but it's like the gaming greats the Black Series gets where it's like a Shadow Stormtrooper or like stuff from video games. Dude, vintage collection, the smaller scale, people would buy the crap out of those.
I'm not sure how much they've seized upon it, but there is like a treasure trove of opportunity for all the specialized.
Force Unleashed?
No, from
Battlefront?
No. Why, man, I just went all the way out.
Yeah.
Jedi Fallen Order.
Yeah. So
There's
they've done
such cool variants.
Okay, so they've done
specialized
for
troopers.
Fallen Order, they've done Purge Trooper. They released him in the regular line, and then they're doing a Gaming Greats Purge Trooper, and they've done maybe one other thing, and then of course Second Sister or Seventh Sister. Is it Second Sister?
There's second and seventh.
Seventh is the big one though, right? So the Second Sister,
Hefty
she's been
gal.
released. Yeah. Okay, so those are some cool things, but here are the cool things they released or announced, and they finally went up for pre-order. So the first one is Royal Guard from the comic book called Crimson Empire. So here's the thing. They advertised this as a character named Karner Jax, and this character is a character named Kurkanos. And it was really embarrassing because the next day they had to say, hey, sorry.
About that?
Yeah. I think that's right.
funny.
I think they advertised it as Karner Jax, but it's Kurkanos.
Is this perhaps the one in the same special guard that was referenced in Bloodlines by Claudia Gray?
I don't think so, because the idea behind Crimson Empire is that there's a royal guard that tries to usurp the imperial throne. Not very loyal.
No, that guy was loyal.
Okay, next one. So this is the weakest of the bunch, even though he's a super cool character. Okay, next one is from Darth Maul comics from the 2000s, and it's him as a Sith apprentice. So
Very
you
cool.
get him.
It's
in
rare to
his-
see him, especially with newer figures, with his original lightsaber intact.
Right. So you can take them apart, but it'll be in two separate pieces in the box for space wise, but it does come together.
And his regular legs.
Yeah. And he comes with the cool Sith tattoos. The first time I saw a figure like this was for the Sith Evolutions figures back in the day, where they'd have three separate characters or a character over the years. So this one was really cool. Now, this one is really cool because it is Luke Skywalker who is training.
Islamari.
Yeah. And now this, let me see if I can zoom in here.
Technically, if you want to get technical about what they're called in the books, that would be an Islamir. Islamari is the plural form.
Correct. So if you're not familiar with
Tim, if you're listening,
yep, there you go.
points for me.
If you're not familiar with the Islamiri, they are a reptilian species that lives on the planet of...
I don't remember.
I can't remember either.
They're there with the Vornskers,
Yeah.
Talon Card.
Dude, I had it, and then I was waiting to see if
Jungle
you had
Planet.
it, and I totally lost it. Let's see. But let's zoom in and read about it. So if you're not familiar with the Heir to the Empire trilogy, it says, using Islamiri to sever a developing Jedi clone's connection to the Force allowed mentally stable Jedi clones to be something. A Discovery Thrawn
Zoom
would
out a little bit
to be created.
because it's gonna get pixelated the more you zoom in.
Sorry, I'm zooming in on my phone because I can see it better there. It says a Discovery Thrawn would use in his war against Luke Skywalker and the New Republic. So if you're a Rebels fan but you've never read the books, Thrawn is introduced in a book series called Heir to the Empire by Mr. Timothy
Merker.
Zahn. There you go, Merker. That's the planet they live on. And so there are feline animals called Vornskers that hunt using the Force to sense other life forms. So these little lizards, the Islamiri, actually develop a shield around them, evolution takes place, and they create a bubble of like a meter or 3 meters or something around them, a sphere around them that basically shields them from the Force. So when you see Thrawn here,
it's not just it's like a forced vacuum.
Right.
It's completely removes the presence of the Force.
It's not the invisibility cloak from Harry Potter for Force users. It's if you're in that bubble, the Force is
doesn't
irrelevant.
Exist there.
Something that I don't think George Lucas was necessarily a fan of, but it was a cool concept. So you see Thrawn there, and he's wearing an Islamiri on a specific backpack over him because
nutrient mount.
Because they need to grow into the trees around them, and he's wearing that because crazy old Maurice Jeruis Sabaoth is using the Force against him. So now he can't do that. So that's a cool figure. The Luke is okay. It's just a repaint of Yavin Luke training with Yoda, and I could give two craps.
I don't even care about Luke. I just think it's cool that they're giving the throwback to the Heir of the Empire
I'm literally going to
series.
open this. I'm going to get my knife, and I'm going to cut the tape at the top of the box. I'll open up the flap. I'll pull the plastic tray out in the side. I'll get the Islamiri out. I'll put Luke back inside, throw the box to the side, and put that little lizard on Thrawn. That's what's going to happen when this toy gets to me. And then lastly,
I'll go into the pantry and I'll get out a slice of bread and I'll get out the peanut butter and the jelly and another slice of bread and I'm going to make myself a sandwich.
Exactly.
What am I going to do with the sandwich? I'm going to eat the sandwich. I'm going to take a bite. I'm going to take another.
I'm going to cut the crust. They're going to cut diagonally. Okay. And then the last of the four, my personal favorite as far as the whole figure goes, Jackson. So Jackson is I can't remember his species name, but he's basically a rabbit. And it starts with an M, I think. But it's crazy because he's not a rabbit.
Diego, I think.
He's not a rabbit, but his ship is called the Rabbit's Foot. Literally created in 1978, the 6th ever Star Wars comic, Star Wars #6 from Marvel, before they let go of the license and Dark Horse picked it up, and then Marvel.
Leppy.
He's a Leppy. Okay. I was one letter away in the alphabet. But Jackson is literally someone that was inspired by Bugs Bunny. And if you ever hear, Bugs Bunny go, "What's that, Jackson?" or "Nice one, Jackson," or like things like that, they literally named him after quotes that Bugs Bunny says. And the coolest thing is that, much like what we said with Geode last week, even though it seems strange, to me, Jackson is quintessential Star Wars. Basically a big naked Sasquatch with a bandolier driving a giant space bus, Chewbacca. This guy's the other end of the spectrum. And he actually saves Han and Chewie's bacon
spectrum.
A number of times. And then he's also had run-ins with Lando. And if you're a reader, if you read From a Certain Point of View for The Empire Strikes Back,
there's a whole story about Jackson.
There's a whole story about Jackson.
And if you're curious, yes, Mark Thompson does speak with the entire story. Mm-hmm. Which I guess I would still prefer that to the Cluehorn debacle.
Yeah, without a doubt. So that's really cool because there are, this is them dipping into every single one of these packs is from comics that appeared in Legends. And so of those, I get Darth Maul is always canon, but those comics were Legends. Mm-hmm. The Islamir still aren't made canon. Yeah. I don't think it's something that Disney will do because they don't want anything that voids the Force.
Yeah. Well, and it kind of poses an interesting problem where, like, the Force is everything. You know what I mean? It's kind of like that panentheistic idea of that, like everything's God, in the sense that the Force is in and everything. So, like, could life actually exist without the Force in that sense? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's a really interesting concept. So it's really neat because they're doing things that are bringing Legends content back into the light. And so it's really cool to see them kind of, not that this canonizes them, Jackson was made canon. Yeah. And that's actually kind of the segue into our next bit of news is that coming out this June, Dr. Aphra number 11, which is going to be part of the War of the Bounty Hunter series that comes out. And look at this guy here. If you're listening, it's the cover of Dr. Aphra number 11 coming in June, I believe. Mm-hmm. And there is Dr. Aphra and another character. I can't remember this girl's name. But they are standing in front of the giant Genndy bounty hunter named Durge.
And they're about to get absolutely shreked. They don't stand a chance.
Yeah.
If they carry over all of his characteristics.
Well,
you know what I mean?
It looks like Durge maybe like shrugging to them like, hey, what's, no big deal. And Dr. Aphra is absolutely a smooth talker.
I do like that they kept his little, like those bola grenades.
Yeah, this pose that he's doing is very, very characteristic of an old comic of him where he's holding that same pose with a dead Gungan under his foot. But that's a perfect
Man
segue.
after my own heart. He was always one of my favorite Star Wars characters, but that really just sealed the deal.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's cool because Durge was such a cool character. He had such a cool backstory.
Freaking cool character.
And when, if you don't know this, when the Tartakovsky Clone Wars was stopped and the 3D Clone Wars was getting ready to be made, one of the decisions, you'll hear Dave Filoni talk about this a lot, but some of the decisions they have to make are based on budget, which is hard to believe because Disney has all the money in the world, and so did Lucasfilm back in the day. But they have to make certain decisions based on what the cost of animating or creating that character will be. And so sometimes characters don't even get made. For instance, in Clone Wars, they were talking about wanting to make both Darth Bane and Darth Revan appear to Yoda, but they didn't because Darth Bane was enough. He was really the character that Yoda needed to talk to, and it would cost so much money to create and animate the Revan character. So they have the sketchings for him, but he never appeared in Clone Wars. Luckily, he was canonized by the Visual Dictionary for Rise of Skywalker. But Durge was brought back into canon recently, and so the reason he fell out of canon was Dave Filoni really wanted to have Durge in Clone Wars, but it was either him or this cool Duros character that had a Western-style look about him, and you guys probably know that guy as Cad Bane. And so it's really, really neat now.
I like that we got Cad Bane, but honestly, if I had to choose...
If I had to choose between Durge and Cad Bane, I'm picking Durge 10 times out of 10. But now, because Legends and canon are both not real here on Earth, we benefit because we get both characters.
Yeah. And
Durge is made canon again, so all things are right in the universe. Which kind of takes us to the subject of today's episode, which is the 2003 anime-style, Samurai Jack-style Clone Wars by Genndy Tartakovsky. And so, Samuel, take me down memory lane. What are your fondest memories of the Tartakovsky Clone Wars? I
think, and we were talking about this earlier, but I think my favorite thing about this version of the Clone Wars is the imagination with which they use the Force.
Yeah.
Because I think even though Clone Wars, and everything I'm going to say is going to sound like a comparison, I would like to start off by saying that I still love Clone Wars. Like, easily my favorite animated, material that Star Wars has put out.
Right.
But for the most part, even though it is pretty boundary pushing, it still kind of binds itself to the way that the Force is used within the films. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing like crazy mind blowing. And I think that this version of the Clone Wars really takes the limits of the Force that are put on, I guess, just filmmaking, because we've talked about it before, but the way that Force fighting and lightsaber dueling is portrayed in novels, for instance, is a completely different sport than what you're seeing. I mean,
we're both thinking right now about the Darth Bane fight on the top of the Sith Temple, where it says they were moving so fast that not a single drop of rain touched their skin.
Well, they were like soaking wet, but you're thinking of in the third book when he was training,
right?
But they're like, basically you're moving so fast you can't even see with the naked eye,
right?
And it's just like crazy Force powers that. Like, when I think about the Force, I'd be like, oh yeah, I'd use the Force for, blah, 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 just like crazy crap. And you get to see that kind of stuff. You know what I mean? Seeing, for instance, that scene with Mace Windu where he's fighting all the battle droids.
Right.
Freaking bonkers use of the Force.
Well, remember when we were reviewing the High Republic, and as we were reading through it, I think you were like a couple chapters ahead of me. And you were like, how far are you? And I was like, I don't know, chapter 7 or whatever it was. And you were like, okay, tell me when you're in chapter 10 or whatever the situation happened to be. And there's a moment where one of the Jedi Masters, spoiler alert, fast forward 20 seconds if you don't want to hear it, he's looking for these thieves in a crowd, and he doesn't know where they are, but he knows he can use the Force to pick up the characters he's looking for. And so Master Loden Greatstorm just picks up these bad guys 20
just
meters
like
in the air.
Of them.
Yeah.
Several
just throws
different
them
locations.
up in the air 60 feet and just lets them fall to their death. Or they're,
He just injures them. Yeah.
extreme not dismemberment, but
Only
disabling.
to maim or seriously injure.
Yeah. So things like that,
Just like freaking crazy cool stuff. You know what I mean?
like the forced jumps, for instance, where it's
Right.
like shoom, and they're
Yeah,
just
like
they're just-
freaking Hulk. You know what I mean? Just
yeah,
like going
exactly.
like 30 miles.
And like you said, you said this earlier while we were kind of, scrubbing through, hey, by the way, they're going to come out on Disney Plus April 2nd with this. So if you want to watch them in the meantime, I would hurry up and get on YouTube and watch them in the meantime if you're not patient enough. But I guarantee you, as soon as it's on Disney Plus, Disney's going to be on YouTube and they're going to be
Oh yeah,
Kicking
scraping
it
those
off.
babies down. It's hard to even find like clips of movies that were made under Disney. Like I wanted to find
Right.
one specific scene from Solo.
can't do it.
Couldn't find it. Couldn't
Yeah.
find it anywhere.
So a couple of really cool things. We were just writing down stuff. It's kind of funny too because the animation style is so different than what we're used to.
Well, yeah, it's almost, I don't know. It's just kind of the hilarious stuff that's like endearing.
Yeah.
But it's still like terrible objectively. Like one of the very first scenes we were looking at the animation for all the clones and all of the B2 battle droids and they're running at each other.
Yeah,
and,
there's a million
it's
on
like
each side.
Naruto.
Yeah.
And they're just like the ones in the background. They're just like silhouettes of
Yeah.
clone troopers. You just see them like, white shadows and you can see a blaster pistol kind of. And then
Well, it's funny because when it switches to the battle droid side,
it's literally, it looks like a kid's drawing of a mountain or like a small hill.
yeah,
It's
I
just a
pointed
shape.
out, I paused it and I was like, "You see this? Look at this battle droid. He's got legs and a torso.
Doesn't even
no
have
arms." But to me, that's cool because with a 3D Clone Wars, you have a rendering of a clone running into battle.
Yeah, they're obviously hand drawn because it's so lazy.
Yeah. It's cool. It comes off a little bit lazy, but I know that it's just. The style.
You're drawing like 300 battle droids by hand every single frame.
Well, it's interesting because like you think about it. It kind of reminds me of in the Phantom Menace. If you look closely at when the pod races, the racers are just speeding through, and the crowd when you're zooming in, of course, is Watto and his box and real people. But if you look up behind the scenes images when they're just zooming through and everything's a blur, it's like, okay, so this Q-tip was dipped in brown paint. This Q-tip was dipped in red paint. Like literally just like little, I don't know if they're actually Q-tips, but just little things, and they're just dipped in different colors, and they're just stuck in the stands. I don't know. It's kind of cool to have like, it's just little niche things that are really cool. But some of the vehicle design in these Clone Wars snippets are some of the best designs.
I really like the imagination that was used in this particular
it feels
Clone
like
Wars.
it feels like we're willing to go out there a little bit with the ideas.
Well,
you
and
know?
like that freaking just pile driver, machine that the droids are using. It's literally just a huge jackhammer.
Yeah. What was so cool is that in the Dark Empire comics from like the 90s, where Luke decides, maybe even the 80s, but Luke decides the only way to defeat the resurrected Emperor. So don't get pissed off at J.J. Abrams. He was around. The concept was around for ages,
Forever.
But the only way to defeat the resurrected clone Emperor is to join him and beat the dark side from the inside out. That's why the comic is called Dark Empire, because like it's this internal struggle with Luke too. But they have what are called
The old Yosemite Sam. If you can't beat them, join them.
Yeah. There's
Switch that flag from they to us.
yeah. They have ships called World Devastators, and they're these giant freaking. It just looks exactly like what you saw. Is these giant just bricks, and they're like, shoot the gun at the ground, And so this one is cool because it's like a big hydraulic press. It just goes, boom, but it makes sense because. A lot of people believe that's how the dinosaurs died. It's a giant droid attack on the Wookiees.
I mean, forces mass times acceleration. You get something heavy enough and move it fast enough, it's going to make some problems.
And so it's cool because you have those moments. And then in Rebels, they brought it back again. If you remember, there's the it's not the exact same, but it's a similar huge square ship that's devastating worlds and destroying crops. And that's when you remember the Trandoshan shift manager. has the Nazi looking helmet.
Yeah.
So it's cool to see, that's one of the best things about Star Wars through the years is ideas that are not recycled, but adjusted and made, usable again.
I think aside from Durge, obviously, because I still remember just being a kid and sitting on the floor in Barnes and Noble and reading an entire graphic novel.
Exact memory that I was thinking earlier.
Just because I loved his concept so much. But I liked how imposing they made Grievous.
Oh, yeah. Grievous from this Clone Wars is by far and away the best Grievous, and nobody else holds a candle to him.
I've always just had trouble reconciling the idea of why he would even be an issue.
Right.
For somebody who uses the Force, and it's kind of confirmed that he's not really Force sensitive.
Just fast as freak.
But yeah, the way he's portrayed here, it makes a little bit more sense where he would be so challenging.
Yeah. Well, it makes sense also because it's early in the Clone Wars, it seems. So you haven't weeded out the weak Jedi that are just nice, peaceful, Force-sensitive folks. So, not everyone's Anakin and Obi-Wan. So you have a frickin'
but you still have
Tasmanian devil with lightsabers in his hands.
Yeah, Jedi like Ki-Adi-Mundi and Shakti that were, Jedi Masters, some of the greats.
Right. So, man, that's so cool. And then, so here's basically what animated Durge looks like. And I picked this picture
sick.
Because he's got a lightsaber through his freaking chest.
Yeah, dude could not care less.
So the way that, if you remember, Obi-Wan does a cool spin move or whatever, and then just plunges the lightsaber into his chest and kind of just holds the move there like, okay, whew, I did it. And then you just hear this mechanical because Durge is basically his species, the Genndy. They're
ironic that die would be part of their name because they can't do it.
Yeah, they're basically just a bunch of sinews together.
They don't die.
It's similar to you ever heard the story about
you ever watch Avatar with the vine bender? That's Durge, except for there's no vulnerable human in the middle of it.
Well, it's crazy because there's that story of like, hey, you can't solve your problems quickly, you really need to address them, and it's the guy who's got, I don't remember if it's like a riot. I can't remember what it is, but there's some place where there's a guy has like a garden of vegetables that grow in salt water or something, and he finds a starfish, and he's like, oh, I don't want to deal with this. They're gonna eat all my crop or whatever. So he cuts a starfish in half and he throws it into the field, and now there's 2 starfish, and then he cuts those, and it's a starfish will heal itself, and you could just cut a leg off, and now you have 2 starfish. You could cut it into thirds, and now you have 3 starfish.
Right.
And so that's kind of how Durge is frickin' Durge is, he's basically all these different sinews and tissues running together, and you can cut his arm off, and basically they'll find one another and back together. It's very almost kind of like a symbiote kind of looks in the Spider-Verse.
Freaking sick. I think at this point if my memory serves, he's like 800 years old right here.
He's like a jillion years old, and the other thing is
300 years buried alive.
Yeah. So okay, here's what kind of threw me. All right, so as with all things, my initial attraction was that I thought he was a Mandalorian because I saw the giant mythosaur on his chest. But it turns out that he was buried alive by the Mandalorians, and so when he wakes up, he paints a giant mythosaur on his chest, kind of as a giant screw you, like, oh, this is your sacred thing. I'm gonna put it on my tummy. And the thing is, by this time,
and take it.
Yeah, exactly. By this time, Mandalorians are already rare. They're not taking over the galaxy, kind of like they were back in the old days. And so because of that, he can't find any to kill. That's his whole goal. So he finds out...
Impotent rage.
Yeah.
This guy.
He finds out, his backstory coming into the Clone Wars is he finds out that the greatest living Mandalorian at the time was Jango Fett. But he just got killed by Mace Windu. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to kill all, 2.5 million of his identical clones. So the whole reason that Durge signs up to be a part of the Separatist is because he just wants to kill clones because
the next best thing.
Yeah, they're a DNA resemblance of Jango Fett, the Mandalorian.
Also, let's talk about Durge's sick introduction.
Durge knows that Jango's a Mandalorian too. Sorry, go ahead.
His sick introduction where he's like
freaking
jousting.
Yeah.
It's literally
IG Lancer droids.
medieval jousting on freaking speeders.
Well,
on speeder bikes.
Before IG,
So sick.
IG-88 was always super cool, right? And then we had books like Tales of the Bounty Hunters and stuff like that, where we still kind of got a little bit of a taste of IG-88, but he was mostly just out there and he was a cool robot. And before we had IG-11, who kind of brought that nostalgia back during The Mandalorian, this Clone Wars comes out, and you see Obi-Wan leading the charge, and he's got a host of, knights on horseback, clones riding, swoop bikes or whatever. And then you have this giant
It's so goofy, but
blue
it's so
guy
cool.
coming down, and he lowers his lance, and then who's he got? IG Lancer droids. So that was kind of the moment in 2003 of, oh, it's IG-88, those IG droids that were such a cool thing. So
You'd think a blaster would come in mighty handy in this particular situation.
I guess not. Yeah.
They're so uncivilized,
Yeah. Chivalrous. I'll poke you with the stick. And then another thing that's really, really,
They
really
would touch
cool-
each other with a 10-foot pole, is what we learned from the Clone
Exactly.
Wars.
So really, who would win this joust is the Grinch. The Grinch rides in.
They couldn't touch him with a
untouchable.
99.5-foot pole. What are they going to do about it?
Now, here is where I favor this Clone Wars over Filoni Clone Wars.
Is it Palpatine's teeth?
Yes, but to me, ARC Troopers. ARC Troopers in this series are how I picture legitimate ARC Troopers. Now, don't get me wrong. I love Jesse. I love Fives. I love Echo. But you don't just get to have a good day and become an ARC Trooper. That's not how it works. They're advanced recon commandos. They're created by Kaminoans to be better, to be advanced. And so there's this moment where Obi-Wan is in a gunship with the ARC Troopers, and he says, "You were chosen for this mission because you're the best." And then the leader, you have the ARC Troopers, and then the leader of the ARC Troopers is Fordo. And Fordo's the guy
He's a bad man.
who has the white armor with the red trim. He's the only one who has that like that. And he's the first person we saw with a comma, the little skirt that they have, because Revenge of the Sith hadn't come out yet.
Yeah.
And so he's got his blasters and his big blaster. So he's got his rifle, and that's running out. And then he's shooting a pistol with the other hand. And then when his pistol runs out and his rifle runs out, he starts hitting droids with the rifle. And he survives this crazy onslaught.
Just one bad mamma jamma.
Yeah. So
a bad motor scooter.
To me, when I see an ARC Trooper, that's what I'm thinking of.
Right.
Is like literally engineered to be better. And so those were super cool. Back in the day, Hasbro came out with that sick Republic gunship that had kind of like the World War II shark smile on it. Oh man, freaking sick. And then this was where we got Hot Kit Fisto. Kit Fisto's getting ready to fight on the side of the Mon Calamari against the Quarren, which is kind of, there's so much good in here,
right?
That is copied.
That it was still recycled.
Yeah,
right. I think one thing, and I'm not 100% on this, but I'm pretty sure at this point, Kit Fisto's lightsaber was still unique in that it was the only one that would still ignite underwater that we knew of. Because when you see him use his lightsaber in this version of the Clone Wars, it looks different underwater. It looks kind of like what we would see like an unstable crystal from The Force Unleashed.
Right.
But I know that when the new Clone Wars happened, all the Jedis could use their lightsaber underwater, and it was kind of like a take back from what Kit Fisto had. Yeah,
well, it makes sense that Fisto would have one that could work underwater,
right,
because he's an Nautilus. Yeah. And so, little things, again, okay, so like, even though it was kind of silly, seeing the little animation in the background of the opening sequence where Yoda's riding that, like, raptor donkey.
Yeah.
Another thing that was a little touch that I thought was so cool that we've never heard before is there's a moment where Ventress and Anakin are fighting. It looks kind of like, it almost looks like they're on Yavin 4, but it begins to rain. And it looks like they're on this, it's like I said, it looks like the Yavin 4 temple. And when it rains, when the droplets hit the saber, you hear
hisses,
and you see
cool
the little
details.
smoke. Because that totally makes sense. That's what happens when it rains on a fire. That's what happens when it rains. Like, if you had a laser that was a sustainable beam, that's what would happen, is that the cold and the hot would react to one another. And so it was cool to see that. And then you have the cool Ventress intro scene. Can
we talk about how a lightsaber would then be boiling the water and it would kill the user like immediately?
Right? It would be like when you're cooking chicken and the grease gets your hand.
Oh,
They'd just be fighting like this. You remember?
I'd be like using that thing at will, but at a distance.
Right.
Force controlling that lightsaber.
Now spin. Do a spinny. You
on,
remember
you
that
know what
fighting
to do.
arena where you first meet Ventress?
Uh-huh.
And a very like Dexter's Lab looking character comes up and goes, Abadoobie!
You mean like the entire series?
Well, yeah, but like there's that one character that specifically comes up to Count Dookie and he's like, Ababoogie Dookie. Dude, that makes me laugh every single time because it's such a...
Okay.
Yeah, it's just like that.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. And then, of course, Sidious Teeth.
Yeah, he looks like a freaking... like a radial saw. I don't even know what's going on.
What? It's so funny, though, because that's
They
so
don't have a
realistic.
space dentist. You know what I mean?
Well,
like,
it's crazy because he's like, all right, Dooku. And it's just like
he's just
freaking...
wearing dentures when he's in the freaking Senate.
That's what I'm wondering is like, so how do you... You know,
Palpatine the orthodontist, but Sidious the Mako shark, you know?
the meth head. It's crazy because, okay, like, probably hardcore believers would probably say that maybe, like, the Force masks... I don't know. What
The
if
dark
like,
side makes his teeth bad
Yeah,
at will.
yeah.
It's like shape-shifting, but for teeth.
The
and the
shroud of
Force.
the dark side protects his teeth.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about.
What if Mace Windu leaves the Senate office and he's like, did you notice his teeth?
Dude, what if he's like, that
Those-
honky got terrible breath?
Those are Sith teeth. Holy Sith teeth. And then it was cool, like you said, kind of the Shatterpoint shout out.
Yeah, that was cool, man. I like
Because
that a lot.
in the old school, no school like the old school. But
Freaking is that Inspector Gadget?
no, it's those two old guys at the end of The Incredibles.
Oh, I thought you were talking about... I'm pretty sure those two older crime-fighting vehicles from the Inspector Gadget cartoon film
Say the same thing.
say that, yeah.
Inspector Gadget's Last Case.
Yeah,
If you
dude.
don't have it, watch it.
Gadget. This time. Gadget.
Yeah, my voice would get raw, like bleeding raw, because I would want to be freaking... I would want to be Dr. Claw so bad.
Dr. Claw. Dr. Claw.
I would do that and the alligator from Robin Hood.
Oh yeah. Let's see. What does the guy from Robin Hood say?
Nothing
The
I can...
Honorable Prince John.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's killing me.
Yep.
What do you have to smoke, like a table
You have to be an alligator.
or a claw?
Have you ever seen an alligator? Or like they make a noise like that, you know what I mean?
Yeah, they do growl.
It's a cool like low hiss. It's kind of like that guy on Murder Amongst the Mormons, the main guy, and you can't tell if his voice is really high or really
What
low.
happened to that guy?
I don't know. He had a normal voice, and then 30 years of reporting, I guess. I don't know.
Well, it was crazy
He
because
was like he was a documents trader, right? Did somebody try to slit his throat? I don't know. What
I don't
happened.
know.
Maybe just like a bunch of smoking.
the very beginning he was like, "Don't ask me to say that. Don't ask me to say that." But he was the best.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh my god." Macy said,
Dude, I couldn't figure it out.
Macy goes, "He must have been near the bomb." The bomb went off in his throat.
Oh my god.
What he ate it and it was like inside.
He ate one of those things from beef jerky that says not to eat.
Oh my
Those
god.
freaking iodine packets.
That's so funny, bro. Dude, I remember seeing those when I was a kid and I was like, don't even touch it. Don't even touch it.
Don't even think about it.
Oh my
You'll freaking
God.
die, man.
What's crazy about this
A kid in
is
5th
that,
grade, he ate 3 of those, and he just started bleeding out of his nose.
Yeah, the same kid that ate freaking what's that candy that Pop Rocks and
Pop
Coke?
Rocks and Coke, man.
You remember when we used to watch MythBusters, and the earlier
I was so committed to
episodes-
MythBusters, I had season 2 downloaded on my iPod video, and I'd watch it on road trips.
Bro, you remember they used
iPod
to
video. This
they
was
used
back in
to
the days.
have the,
Took me like a full day to download that.
Oh my god,
from
yeah.
iTunes, by the way.
Dude, you would go to the school the next day and be like, "So I downloaded a music video."
Right?
You
You
remember
were
when
the hot item if you had a
Oh,
new music
yeah.
video on your iPod video. I had my home phone number laser etched in the back. That's how I knew I was
Yeah,
killing
because if
it.
you find this, you're gonna return it.
Yeah.
You remember,
Or at least you're going to be thinking of me.
You remember how at the very beginning of MythBusters they were trying to be like official? They'd have like some people on there, and some lady would her title would be like, you know, I don't know, freaking
folklorist.
Yeah, and it'd be like, yeah, knower of myths. I was like, how, everybody, I guess now everybody knows.
It was mainly that chick with the curly black hair.
Yeah.
And so what happened?
So Billy says, I'm not a wimp, I'll do it. So he eats some Pop Rocks, drinks some soda. Next thing you know, he dies. And that's the story.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, like...
That's her job, folks.
They must have her sit down and be like, all right, so to get your check today, we're going to need you to tell us 45 minutes.
No. She already knew it. She already had that in her back pocket.
No, I know. I'm just saying, like, the whole story...
She's a professional.
The whole story takes like 10 seconds to tell. Billy was a daredevil, and they said, you can't eat Pop Rocks and Coke, Billy. And he said, oh, yeah? So he did it. And he died. Let's test it out.
Watch this.
They said, Billy, you can't hit a baseball with just the back of your hand.
Joseph Witham. That's her name. Folklorist.
You can't with him. Join him.
And her hair's not as curly as I remember.
With him? I barely know him.
So stupid.
Okay, so one thing that 3D, one of the many things that 3D Filoni Clone Wars got right was the prolonging use of Ventress, because just in the very first volume, one of the things that was cool about the Genndy Clone Wars was that it was in little snippets. You would see it for like 5 minutes at a time. But Anakin kills Ventress by the end of volume 1.
Right.
And goes, oh! And then...
Have you seen the video?
Yes.
Where everybody dies, but it's Anakin's hurt noise?
Yes.
So Shmi Skywalker dies. Freaking worth the watch if you haven't seen it yet.
Yeah, look up something like Everyone Dies, but it's Anakin or something on YouTube.
You'll find it. You'll know the one.
The one that gets me is when it's Anakin.
And I'll know it's the one when it makes me laugh. Swipe me off my feet.
I didn't say drop the safe. I said keep her safe, you dolts.
Well, that's good, 'cause we missed her.
Oh, not so bad.
So we're not going to quote the entire movie of The Three Musketeers starring Mickey, Donald, and Goofy, but we'll quote a lot of it.
My favorite line from that whole movie is when Donald goes, die? Die? And they pick him up.
My favorite line is,
I've been looking forward to this all month.
I've been looking forward to this.
Dude, I used to
it's
know.
hard to beat, man.
I used to know the.
He's talking about taking a shower, by the way. It's freaking hilarious.
Yeah. I used to know the whole song that Pete would sing on his way down to his secret lair. And if we turn the movie on right now,
there's
I could
100% chance I'm listening to that on the way home.
Oh, yeah.
Don't get shoved, sheep get sheared. Be the king, pull the strings, or else you might get smeared. Evening, trusty lieutenant, watch out for the bricks.
What?
Let's see, what's he say?
Oh my god, we're running out of time. Let's
Come
talk
and
about
cheer
Star
me, let
Wars,
me feel
dude.
me, Petey's king of France.
I guess we're talking
Why
about
the music stop?
Disney.
All right, so and then you move into volume 2, and well, at the
my
very
God.
end of volume 1, Grievous is put on the scene.
Yeah.
And he's super cool for the reasons you mentioned.
If you haven't, go look up the video where they time Grievous from this particular Clone Wars to the song Rasputin. It's a great watch.
Yes.
It's the whole song, by the way. So
And so one thing that's really cool is right at the beginning of volume 2, the ARC Trooper crew is back on the Shark gunship, and they are hunting for Grievous. And so think about this. You send in a team of Jedi Masters, they get pwned, and then you send in your best clones on
Jedi
a freaking
Masters plus
flying tank.
Shaggy,
Yeah.
the Jedi that's definitely not Shaggy.
Yeah. And my boy Crook was there. Luckily, he survived.
He's also a bad motor scooter.
It's cool because think about this. Basically, they send in a dropship to rescue all the Jedi who just got destroyed by Grievous, and then the gunship can't even defeat him. Like
I
he's
would like to point
running.
out that when Grievous was most vulnerable was when Ki-Adi-Mundi actually thought to use the Force.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And so then they're fighting, and they finally get the Jedi, and they evac, and he says, so, and the voice was cool for Grievous too. Run, Jedi, run. You have only prolonged the inevitable. He didn't have his bronchitis yet. You wear the trappings of a Sith. You fight like a Sith. Okay, here's one problem I have with this. Okay,
Vegetable.
This is mouth.
Vegetable.
I have a problem with this phrase. Okay, Dooku's talking to Ventress. We're going backwards to Volume 1,
Is
and he
the
says, "No, no, no,
phrase-
no, let me finish." He says,
Vegetable.
"No." He says, "You wear the trappings of the Sith. You fight like a Sith," and then he says, "This." Let's see. You wear the trappings of the Sith. You fight like a Sith. But this can be imitated, however. I didn't like that he had "but" and "however" in the same sentence.
What are you gonna do?
They're the same point.
Dooku's
a man of culture. He would know.
I saw somebody post on their Instagram story today, and they said starting off to a good start, and I was like,
Oh, come on, guy.
it's either starting off good or it's off to a good start, but it is not starting off to a good start.
Correct. And so the hunt for Grievous happens. They get the Jedi out of there, but Grievous is still on the loosey-loose. Anakin has a
The
vision.
Lucy Lou,
Yeah. Anakin has a vision of Qui-Gon.
the most alluring of being at large.
And Liam Neeson actually came back to do the voice.
Liam Neeson's?
And so it's interesting because Anakin's having a vision, or they make it seem like Yoda's having a vision of Anakin talking to Qui-Gon, but it's kind of hard to explain. But
I think maybe it's Anakin, though. It's not really. It's really not that clear.
I think you have.
I think you have.
And so, yeah, it's real random because Qui-Gon's talking to Anakin, and Anakin says, "I'm afraid," and he goes, "Don't be, Anakin." And then he says, "What's in there?" And
The Force.
Qui-Gon goes, "Only what you take with you." And they're looking at the tree on Dagobah, so which is interesting. And one thing that's really cool is that this is the first time that you really get to see the low levels of Coruscant, because you have Anakin and Padme meeting up secretly,
Nice.
which literally a week later during Revenge of the Sith, Anakin's like, "Hang on, Obi-Wan, I'm in Padme's room. I'll be right there." Everyone knows what's going on at this point, I feel like.
Yeah, I like in season 7 of the Clone Wars, the new one. Obviously, it's 7 seasons.
Yeah.
Obi-Wan's like, "Tell Padme I said hi."
Yeah. Everyone knew.
Padme's still looking hot. He's just saying stuff to piss him off at this
Dude,
point.
freaking
I would.
Rex and them have a code where it's like knock 3 times if Obi-Wan's coming so we can stop making out.
Super subtle.
I was like, come on, bro. But it's cool to see the low levels of Coruscant. You see people who look like they've been living in General Woundwart's den. if you're a Watership Down fan.
Oh my god. Skin and bone. they're just ravaged by sickness and hunger.
Yeah.
And
their ears
the
are
general
shredded.
himself.
Yeah.
You want to be part of my crew? Let me cut your face with my hand.
Yeah.
All right, now you're in.
And I'm going to eat all your lettuce. All the lettuce.
I
So
gotta
anyways,
say, a wiener.
then you have sexy 3PO when he first gets his gold plating. And he's like, "Oh, you want to see my gold plating?" He takes his freaking
He's wearing a robe because he's gold
takes
plated
his robe
now.
off, and he like puts his knee in front of his
Yeah,
other
he
leg.
does like a little-
And it's like, "Wang!" You have like the sexy trumpet.
Yeah,
Um,
that's freaking hilarious. It's akin to if you're a fan of a different film, 102 Dalmatians Patch's London Adventure, where Boris is trying to flag down a vehicle and
yeah,
sticks his nice little hairy leg. He's
love
in
that
drag,
movie.
obviously.
yeah.
Oh my god, that scene's so
I think
freaking
this is
funny.
the only time that we see Anakin's braid get removed too, because by the time the Clone Wars
Yes.
3D happens, he's already a Jedi Knight.
And then we fast forward like 6 months for his hair to get nice and long.
Yep. And then so there are 3.
We also, I wish, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'm thinking about promotions though, and I still haven't gotten to see Obi-Wan's transition from Jedi Knight to Jedi Master.
Yeah, I know. What the heck?
I'm hoping that happens in the Kenobi series. I'm gonna
Some
write
kind of a
I'm gonna-
flashback?
I'm gonna write you and McGregor a nice handwritten letter. See if I can. Make
Oh,
that happen.
okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, from Knight to Master.
I think the only actual time we get to see that discussion at all actually happens in Light of the Jedi. When we have our man that was friends with Avar Kriss, he gets promoted to Jedi Master.
Right. Yeah, that is interesting. That is interesting.
It's the only time I can think of.
You know who it surprises me as a Jedi Master is Quinlan Voss. Doesn't it surprise you?
It surprises me that he became a Jedi Master in that era of the Jedi.
Yeah,
but I think it was just one of those things.
It doesn't surprise me. His talent is there, but his attitude is not a Jedi Master.
I think he's just such a specialist. You know what I mean? That he also set the bar really low for himself.
Yeah,
the expectations.
It's weird for me that Anakin is not a master, but Quinlan Voss is a master. When they're very similar in attitude.
That's just like your opinion, man.
So there's three main stories going on throughout the second half of the second volume. So there's Anakin and Obi-Wan, and they are amongst the Nelvanian warriors, which are the really cool blue dog looking characters. And they're super dope, kind of a Native American style, tribal warriors. They believe in rite of passage.
It feels very much like Brother Bear.
Brothers are the same.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what it reminds me of.
You guys are welcome for that Phil Collins impression.
I always think of Brother Bear when I see this story arc.
I love Phil Collins.
I love Brother Bear.
Yeah. But Phil Collins makes that movie, basically.
He also makes Tarzan.
Oh, dude.
And he makes music.
That's the thing Phil Collins can't do anymore.
Oh.
Sorry, Phil. So your main three storylines going to the last half of this volume is Anakin and Obi-Wan amongst the Nelvanian warriors, the invasion of Coruscant, and specifically the abduction of the Chancellor by General Grievous. So you have...
Yeah.
You basically are following Yoda and Mace Windu during the invasion of Coruscant as they're trying to stave off the separatists. And then you have Anakin and Obi-Wan, specifically Anakin, who is trying to find the lost warriors who have gone off to face some unknown foe.
What was cool is that Obi-Wan kind of referred to this as Anakin's trials.
Yeah, he said this is the final
really passed the trials.
Yeah, he's made a knight, but this is the final trial you never got to have.
Right, that's very cool.
And so here's a cool picture from that style. Nice Prince of Egypt nipple there.
Just the one.
Just the one. And so basically what he has to do is he talks to like the shaman of the tribe.
Can't grab anything, but it looks pretty good for stabbing.
Yeah, he'd make it in prison. And so they put these leeches on there and they're dipped in dye, and it basically puts this tribal tattoo on him that essentially is the picture of I don't know, it's not really a map, but it's basically I don't really know what it's good for, except for this is like his rite of passage. It would be his final trial. So his job is to go and find all the warriors of this tribe of Nelvanians has gone missing. Nobody knows where they are. And it turns out they've been abducted by the CIS, specifically the dude, what is Wat Tambor part of? I can't remember.
The Techno Union.
There you go. Thank you. Good job. And you can see like Grievous masks and stuff in the background, and it seems like they know that these are great warriors, and they're trying to use them and attach like
trying to make kind of like android species, like cross species out of them.
Yeah,
but
cyborgs.
It's also like, because they're not willing participants, there's some aspect of mind control, some zombie-esque behavior.
Yeah, and it's really sad because these Nelvanian warriors are trying to attack them and defeat them to make home safe for them again, for themselves. But it seems like they get captured by the CIS, and they are promised like power to be able to, because there's this cool graphic on the wall that kind of shows the story of what's been happening, and there's this moment where it seems like the first warrior that received his cyborg enhancement was allowed to come back to the tribe. Maybe you remember that, where you have the regular stick figure warrior, right, regular dude, and then they attach the arm, and remember the arm starts going all over the screen, and it's like killing these big animals that he wouldn't actually be able to kill. Do you remember that?
Not particularly well.
So there's this moment where the warrior just has his spear or whatever, and then he gets almost kind of like a robotic hand, and it turns into this crazy claw, and he's able to kill like a giant rhinoceros-looking animal that he normally wouldn't be able to kill.
Right.
You find out it's because he has these mechanical enhancements that are like a blaster for an arm or things like that. But basically, it takes over, and he can't control it. And then, wow, I just hit that screen. He
Just
can't
like that.
control it. Yeah, just like exactly what I did. And so this is my favorite part. The Grievous chase is cool, but this is my favorite part of this volume. Is Anakin finding these characters and freeing them, bringing them back to their homes. And then the very last part of the series before we launch into episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, is that Grievous has the Chancellor. He's chasing him down, and you have Shaak Ti, and then you have a Tal's Jedi named Fal Mudama.
And then you have the Ithorian. I don't know what his name is.
Ithorian Jedi's name is what's that guy's name? I had it for a second. Anyways,
and then Mace Windu.
Well, Mace Windu's not till the very end.
Coming up.
I think so. The Magna Guards and Grievous are trying to get the Chancellor.
Right. I think the two coolest things from that scene are
Roran Korob is the name of the Ithorian.
Oh, very good. One is the Ithorian. You get to see him
use his four throats.
Yeah, his particular ability. They have 4 throats, and so they actually have 2 mouths that are on the side of their neck, and they. The Jedi of the species can use it to kind of like do a force scream. So you see him kind of blow away all these separatist soldiers. Yeah, it's cool because
he already has a much stronger voice than we would.
Yeah.
Plus force abilities.
Right. And so, and then you get to see kind of how strong Grievous is still. He just anchors in. Right. Anybody got some chocolate milk?
He's trying to scare him. Grievous, oh my.
Booga booga.
But eventually, of course, Grievous is just too much. Fal Mudama, Roran Korob both lay down their life to save the Chancellor.
Fail spectacularly, of course.
Shaak Ti is taken prisoner, I want to say.
I think she's incapacitated.
Because there was a deleted scene for Revenge of the Sith where when Anakin and Obi-Wan get on Grievous' ship to try to save the Chancellor, Grievous executes Shaak Ti right in front of him.
Oh, nice.
And so they were kind of setting that up. And the second coolest thing Mace Windu ever does, besides the cool Shatterpoint stuff.
He freaking just disassembles a B-2 battle droid with the Force. That's freaking dope.
So the coolest thing, and this is like right at the end of the show, is the Chancellor is in tow. He's in the ship. The Magna Guards have secured him. The ship's about to take off. And Mace Windu makes it to the port just in time for them to take off. And Grievous sees him, turns around, and really quick gets into a crouching stance, pulls out all 4 of his lightsabers, and in response, Mace just reaches out and does a fist and freaking crunches Grievous's insides. And Grievous falls to the deck and goes, which is where the cough comes from that you see in Revenge of the Sith.
And then somewhere in Tatooine, you heard,
That's gotta hurt.
Nice. Our first
I was
sound bit in a long time.
frantically looking it up because I knew where we were going.
But such a cool series.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They also made cool animated style toys for this, which is like you would try to find the Durge, of course.
Obviously.
And then
the coolest available character.
Right. And then they also made a realistic style Durge, and they made stuff from they have one Durge figure that his right hand is like real expanded and claw-like to kind of represent what it would look like.
Claw, get it?
And so that's really cool. And then they actually ended up making
Secret formula.
They ended up making a figure of Anakin with that tribal tattoo on him.
Yeah.
Which is super cool. And so it's just a really cool thing. So if you haven't seen this, you can find it in pieces on YouTube. And if you just want to wait for the 4K.
Yeah, I'm excited because it's going to be the versions you can find that aren't obviously on DVD format, which are going to be a little bit outdated anyway.
Yeah.
You find them on YouTube and they're kind of patchy. So I'm excited to see it like kind of just remastered.
I think I found one 1080p. That's kind of what we were scrubbing through today. But like I said, dude, Disney's going to come through with that Grim Reaper for all the YouTubers that have their property.
Right.
Now that they're going to use it again. So April 2nd, which is actually my birthday.
Happy birthday.
The Tartakovsky Clone Wars, the animated portion of the holiday special. So some form of the holiday special is coming to Disney Plus. Just the animated story, which is Boba Fett's
best part
animated
anyway.
reveal, which is really cool. And then the Ewoks.
Shut up.
Be quiet. And then you have the Ewoks, Caravan of Courage, and those movies, and then the 2 seasons of the Ewoks cartoons
Fantastic.
are all coming out. So that'll be fun to watch and review. But if you're a Clone Wars fan, but you've never taken the time to watch this version,
It really doesn't take. It's just two. I mean,
it's
I
two-
guess it's a little while. But
it's 2 hours
yeah,
for
to
the
watch
whole
show.
series.
Yeah. It
So
came out in little 5-minute segments, so it's just 2
Yeah.
total volumes.
look it up. I'm sure you can find it in the next little bit, and then comment. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you remember if you watched it, and if this is your first time viewing it, maybe give us some fresh eyes and give us a compare and contrast. What you liked more about this, what you thought could have been done better, what you appreciate about the 3D Clone Wars. Now that this one's you've seen this one, but it's a really cool thing. But we're really excited. It's coming to Disney Plus, where we'll get a 4K version that we'll have forever.
Excellent.
Very fun stuff. So thank you guys for tuning in. Remember, may the Force be with you always.
And just like the Star Wars Clone Wars is being reunited with its long lost brother, around here, the only family you have here is me.
We'll see you next week.